So, all this month, you know that I have been talking about health and wellness and taking care of ourselves as we finish out this year. And I've been interviewing some incredible women entrepreneurs that I met through your Healthiest Year Summit that I took part in October. And today's guest is definitely going to be one of your favorites, I promise you. Today, I am talking with Rachelle Babler. Rachelle grew up in Southern California near the sunny beaches of San Diego and has always been an avid explorer, traveler, musician, and creative soul. At the height of her career in forensics, she quit her job cold turkey to pursue her why and found out what that was during a global pandemic. Her mission is to empower people to be conscious advocates so that they can heal, inspire, and unite the human collective. Whether it's supporting clients to connect to podcasts or guest appearances, those who want to get clear on their idea worth spreading on the TEDx stage, or those who want to tell their story through music, Rachelle has helped hundreds of clients simply amplify their voices to create human impact. She loves what she does, but is most proud of being a mom to her two children, Austin and Cameron. In this interview today, we are going to talk about her incredible journey. Honestly, it was hard for me to decide what direction to go with this because she is such an interesting person. She's going to share about how her brain tumor taught her how to be an advocate for her own health. She's going to share how losing her sister to colon cancer led her to her why of advocating through music. And if we have time, she's going to share a little bit about her experience on the TEDx stage and how she helps people who want to have that experience. And maybe she'll even sing her song that is about her sister's journey with colon cancer. So, welcome to this week's episode. I'm so glad you're here. Pull up a chair and let's go. Well, hey, welcome, Rachelle. I'm so glad you're here on the Lighter Way podcast. I cannot wait to talk with you today. I was just so inspired and just convicted, really, listening to your presentation at your Healthiest Year Summit. Everything you talked about advocacy and advocating for others through music, and just your background is so
Mhm.
interesting. I think you're the most interesting person I've talked to all year. And so I would love it if we could just start this off with you. Share just a little bit about your background and just tell us a little bit about your history.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me too. I'm excited to be here. So a little bit about my history. Yeah, I do have an interesting background. I grew up in San Diego and I still live in San Diego. And after high school, I was always interested in helping others. I was a student athletic trainer through high school into college, and I was a lifeguard and, had my CPR and all that stuff. So it kind of gradually like navigated to becoming an EMT. And I went through EMT school, and then I went through paramedic school. So EMT does basic life support and paramedics do advanced life support. So
Mm.
I became a paramedic, and I was a paramedic for about 6 years in San Diego. And with contract negotiations with the companies that we worked for, there was always a bid like every 4 years. And so we never knew like what was going to happen if the new company would take us over. So when the contract bid was at, a lot of us were going to lose our jobs. So many of us started going back to school. And that's when I went to school and I took a forensics course and I got hooked. And the instructor was in charge of a crime lab here in San Diego. And I started doing volunteer work there while I was
Mm.
working as a paramedic. And then they eventually hired me. So that transitioned me from being a paramedic to working in forensics. And I did that for about 20 years. I
Wow.
worked for a small agency doing CSI, like all the crime scene processing. And then I went to a larger agency and I was a latent print examiner. So I examined fingerprints that were left on crime scene and on evidence. And I compared those and I searched them through databases. And I did a lot of research too. So I got to travel all over the country, sharing the research I'd done at forensic events and conferences, which was really fun. And then, it was weird. Around, let's see, midway through my career in forensics, I got diagnosed with a rare brain tumor. And that kind of changed things for me as far as, really realizing how precious life is and like, what am I doing with my life? And
Mm.
do these things serve me and what doesn't serve me anymore? And in 2017, I just decided I was done. And I quit my job cold turkey at the height of my career, and everybody thought I was crazy and having a midlife crisis because I was 46. And it really was my midlife awakening. Like, I knew intuitively, because when I got diagnosed with that brain tumor, I really started meditating and doing a lot of personal development work. And my intuition just got louder and louder and louder and was like, you are done with this chapter. And then I became an entrepreneur. So for the last 4 years, I have been an entrepreneur, and I have helped support clients with their message for sharing their message, brand, and business with different media outlets. So podcasts, events, conferences. But now I'm primarily focusing on the TEDx stage and sharing their story through music.
So cool. That is quite a resume.
I
I
know.
love it. I love it. So let's back up a little bit, and I want to hear a little bit more about I mean, it's all incredible. Like, you can see how you were, led intuitively or divinely through all of that. You were interested in helping people, interested in doing research. You had that natural curiosity. You were used to digging in and finding the details, finding answers. So then you had the brain tumor diagnosis. So can you tell us a little bit about, like, what happened there? And I know some of the backstory about how you had to advocate for yourself to get the treatment that you wanted, but can you
Yeah.
expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. So I've always kind of been an advocate. And, when I was a paramedic, I advocated for people's health, obviously. And when I was in forensics, it was really advocating for the truth. My analysis in cases would help a jury decide whether this person was guilty or innocent. So, I've kind of advocated my whole life. And, having that paramedic background was really important and helpful to me when I was diagnosed, because already knew a lot about the body. I have a degree in paramedicine. I know a lot about physiology and anatomy, and just what I've seen, all my experiences. So I was pregnant with my second child, and I was having severe vertigo, just dizziness. It was really bad. And it was at the very end of my pregnancy, and the doctors were like, well, it's probably pressure in your ears because I'm swollen, and it'll probably go away after you have the baby. So I had my daughter, and a couple months after, it just was getting worse. And I knew something was wrong. I just knew it. Like, we know our bodies. We've lived with our bodies our entire life, and we know when something's wrong. And I went to my doctor. She referred me to a specialist, and he wanted me to go to physical therapy. And I said no. And I didn't leave his office until he agreed to do an MRI. I knew something was wrong, and I wanted an MRI done. And so he finally agreed to do an MRI. And then he called me after I had it done and said, well, we actually found something. And that's when I had my brain tumor. And it's 1% of all brain tumors. So it was very rare. That's what caused a lot of questioning about what treatment to do, because, several doctors I went to in San Diego just hadn't treated it that often. So, because you don't see it that often. So I ended up going to Stanford. I knew what treatment I wanted. And then when my doctor submitted it, it was denied. And so that's when I had to really like just put together a case, and luckily I've done that in forensics, and I know I'm very detail oriented. So, I looked at all the research and the studies, and, other patients who had gotten treated with this newer type of treatment, which is why they didn't want to pay for it, because it was considered kind of like experimental or new. And then I found an attorney. He submitted all the paperwork for me, and And then I found out that on the very last day of the year, which I know the health thing likes to close out cases before the end of the year. So it was December 31st. I found out that I won my appeal, and then I got my treatment within a few weeks. So, but you can get things done when you believe in certain things. Like, I'm a huge proponent of when you believe wholeheartedly in a cause or something that's going to be helpful for you, especially medically, that there's always a way to like try to get that treatment that you need. And my attorney was so amazing, and he looks for the loopholes and the denials, and and part of what really won my case, I think, was going to Stanford and getting opinions from these doctors who had treated it a lot more. And also, he put in the appeal that I knew my body and I knew what was best for me. And so I think a combination of all that really helped me win my case. And so that was, it's coming on next month. It'll be 13 years since I've been diagnosed. So I'm incredibly grateful that everything worked out, and I'm doing well. And I just had a scan recently and everything looks good. So yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. I always am talking to my clients and, to my audience about how you have to become an expert in the study of one, in you.
Yes.
Nobody knows your body better than you do. We have to reclaim our intuition, our intuitive knowing of our body, because our body will tell us what
Yep.
we need if we just listen. But our daily busy lives, we've kind of drowned that out. Especially diet culture has taught us to ignore our hunger and fullness cues, and I could go on about that. And I know you implemented a lot of holistic care and meditation, which we could totally do another talk on that.
Yeah.
But you really did advocate for yourself, and I think it's just an amazing testimony. And I'm so glad that you're healed and doing well and all of that. It's incredible.
Thanks.
So, I have a question that we didn't talk about this beforehand, but what would you say to someone who didn't have a background in, paramedics or, all of that? What could they do? What's like a simple thing, or what would be the first thing to do if you get a scary diagnosis to be able to advocate for yourself?
Yeah, the first thing I would suggest is getting multiple opinions, going to different doctors, even if you have to pay for out of pocket. I did when I went to Stanford. It wasn't cheap to fly to Stanford and see two doctors, pay them both, but it was so worth it. And it helped me get my, appeal won or win my appeal. So I would say get multiple opinions, and then also have somebody come with you to take notes. Like, you just be present to listen and answer questions. Have somebody else do the dictating and the, writing the notes for you, and being like kind of just a sounding board. And if they have medical background, even better, because, someone who's in the medical field obviously has an advantage to, from their experience or just seeing things. So those are the two things I always say, is just get, multiple opinions, especially if it's a diagnosis that's like, a little challenging maybe, and not, seen very often, or there's multiple types of treatments. So get some different opinions, and also, find the doctors who've treated it the most, or who are the experts in that area, and see, what they say.
I love that. That's so good. I love the idea of bringing someone with you also, because I'm sure and when you get a diagnosis like that, your brain is, you're like shutting down maybe, or you're just not hearing anything beyond, it's a
Yeah.
tumor or it's cancer or whatever. So that is great. And having someone who has some experience with it to take notes and ask the right questions. So good. I do that with my mom now. Like, my mom is completely capable of taking care of herself, but if it's something serious, I always go with her, because as she's processing, I'm firing away questions, and asking those questions and taking notes, so that afterward, she can confirm what she thinks she heard, and we can kind of make sure that we have the right plan in place. So
Yeah. And my friend that went with me, she was a ER nurse, and her and I were paramedics or EMTs together. And so she was a really good friend. And don't be afraid to ask for it. I think that's
yeah.
another thing, is like, a lot of people are just like, oh, I don't want to bother somebody. I don't want to, but I'm telling you, there's so many people that want to help you. And
Hmm.
even if it's just for them to take notes, like, I mean, people will be willing to do that. And just
Yeah.
to just be open to receiving support.
Yes. So good. That's a hard lesson too
It is.
for
It is.
many of us. Oh,
Yep.
I love it. So now let's talk about your sister.
Mhm.
Your sister was diagnosed with colon cancer, and that was really a huge pivotal moment in your life. Can you share
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah. My sister, Juanita, was diagnosed with colon cancer at the age of 46. And she'd been having some symptoms, but the doctor didn't take them seriously because of her age.
Mm,
And her symptoms got worse. And finally, she's like, I think I need a colonoscopy. And they did one. And when she had it, the doctor told her right then, like, you have cancer. And so then she had a procedure to, they opened her up to see, how bad it was, like where the cancer was and if it had spread. And it had spread to her liver, which is typically the first, I think it's the most common area that colon cancer will spread to first. And so she was diagnosed stage 4. And, she had a 2.5 year battle before she passed away. And it was really, I know this can relate to many people. Seeing someone with cancer is just the most horrible thing to go through, and to watch someone that you love so much go through the chemo and the radiation and the procedures and the uncertainties and everything. It was really hard. Yeah.
I can only imagine, and I'm so sorry for your loss. And but I know that you have used your grief as a teaching tool.
Yeah.
You've been through a lot. You also lost your father a few months after that,
Yeah.
and what you shared in your summit presentation was about a little bit about how you used that, or that helped you, taught you how to listen to your intuition and take a new path in
Yeah.
your career. So where did that lead you?
So the day after my sister passed away, I'm a musician. You can see all my guitars back
Hmm.
there and
I have
songwriting.
some in my room too. If I get turns,
Oh,
I've
nice.
got them all around here. I don't play. My husband does, but yeah.
Awesome. I mean, they're great just to hang and, they look
Hmm.
nice. So the day after my sister passed away, I wrote a song about, it was my interpretation of her cancer journey.
Mm.
And I was just so, distraught. And, the way for me to deal with like my emotions is to write, like journal, write, and sometimes it comes out into a song, and this came out into a song. And my guitar instructor and I played it at her celebration of life. And it was really, cathartic and healing for me to, be able to express my grief in a different way. Um, and I knew that I wanted to do something and continue something to, help, continue her legacy and to help others be aware of the importance of getting a colonoscopy. A lot of people skip colonoscopies because they feel fine. And the thing about colon cancer is that most people, according to Mayo Clinic, will not experience any symptoms or anything in the early stages of colon cancer. It's a slow growing. And when you do experience symptoms, it tends to be in the later stages, which is not when you want to catch it. So those colonoscopies are so important because early detection is everything for that. And it's one of the most treatable, curable cancers out there when it's caught early.
Hmm.
So I knew I wanted to share her story so that it would help others to get screened. And last year during the pandemic, I was sitting here like just working one day, and I was like, God, what is, like, what direction am I supposed to take? I think the pandemic was like a time of reflection for many people.
Hmm.
And I was, thinking like, what am I, like, I know I'm meant to do certain things in this lifetime to help others, but like, what is it really, like, niche it down for me? Like, what am I supposed to do? And stories through music came right away. And I didn't know what it meant. But I looked up the domain, it was open, I bought it, and I figured it would, my intuition or whatever would tell me later. And then I decided to create a lyric video out of that song that I wrote for my sister. And I put pictures of her in it, and I incorporated colon cancer statistics and facts. And I just used that. I do outreach for a lot of clients to reach out to podcasts and stuff. So I did my own outreach. I created a list of colon cancer organizations, And I just created a pitch, a cold email. And I said, this is my story. This is my sister's story. Can you please share this so that people will connect to her battle of cancer and get screened? And, I had no idea that that would generate like people responding to, like, they were moved to tears.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to share it on their social media that had thousands of viewers. Um, the Colon Cancer Foundation had asked Mark and I to play her song at their virtual concert, their fundraiser. And then the Colorectal Cancer Alliance wanted me to go through their spokesperson training so that I could maybe do some media to share my sister's story, to bring awareness so that people would get screened. So it led to all these opportunities. And then it eventually led me to my TEDx talk, which I just did 3 weeks ago, which really, my idea worth spreading on the TEDx stage was advocating through music. So it's music is so powerful, and it connects us in a way we can't even explain sometimes. We go to a concert or a music venue, and we don't care what people's religious beliefs, political beliefs are. When we're there, we're all there for the music, and it unites us. And so when you combine music with advocating for a cause, something that's near and dear, it can be very powerful. And, just me doing mine, showed me like, well, if this did this for me, what could it do for others? So I'm really excited to really, now my business is kind of shifting into being a conscious advocate. And how can you consciously advocate for something on the TEDx stage or through music? So it was a really, it's very healing for me to know that, and there's many of my friends I've shared on social media who've reached out and said, well, I finally got screened. And, my friend and her husband went, and they had precancerous polyps. And so, it just makes me feel like, she didn't die in vain, and she'll continue to help people.
It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. I love how you used how your journaling just really it turned into music. It turned into something so much bigger. And I'm sure at the time you had, I mean, that you were just processing grief. You were trying to
Yeah.
work through your
Yeah.
grief. And by allowing that, by working through it, not fighting it, but allowing it and just being with it, it became something so much bigger and helping so many others. And I listened to your song, and I have to say it's very catchy. It's an earworm now. I keep hearing the chorus line. I've been walking around singing it. It's a beautiful song, and I
Thank
hope
you.
hopefully we'll have time for you to play it. But I just love your story. I mean, it's just so
Thank
fascinating, and I'm so thankful that we have the opportunity to share and just to bring light that those who are out there who are dealing with scary diagnosis for themselves or their family members, that
Yeah.
that God has a plan, that grief is hard, challenging diagnoses, however,
Uh-huh.
are hard, but we're
Yeah.
not alone. We can get through that together, and we
Yeah.
can also use it to help others. And I know, like in my family, I get my colonoscopy. I do. I went to see the doctor just this year, and the doctor thanked me like 3 times for I went to see a gastro for something else, but I told him I had my colonoscopy. He's like, thank you. I was like, why are
Yeah.
you so, but he said, it's just
Yeah.
like you did. It's so important. You make my job easier when you
Yeah.
go and get checked. So, how can people, like, where can they get more information about getting checked regularly and all of that? Do you have links for that, or?
The Colon Cancer Foundation, you can definitely go there, or the Colorectal Cancer Alliance. They have a lot of resources, information, Q&As, like lots of stuff. So you can go
Mhm.
to those websites to get more information. The age was lowered to 45. So if you
Mhm.
were 45, you need to be asking your doctor to get screened if they're not telling you. And another thing too, we talked earlier about like, what can you do to advocate for yourself? And I talked about bringing somebody with you
Mhm.
and getting multiple opinions. The other thing is just, um, I don't think I was intimidated by physicians because I worked around them as a paramedic. And there are many times I had to go head to head on it with a doctor on,
Yeah.
maybe a treatment that I did. And I just wasn't, I'm not intimidated by them, but a lot of people are. It's like, this is a doctor and I can't say I have to do exactly what they say. Just
Mm-hmm.
remember that your voice as a patient is just as important, and you can say no, like,
Yes.
no, I don't want that, I would like this.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, intuitively we know our bodies. So when you're feeling something, and I tell people, like, have you ever been in a situation where you're in a meeting or something and you're like, you want to say something, you want to say something, you want to say something, and you don't, and afterwards you're like, I wish I would have said that.
Yeah.
When you're feeling that in a doctor's appointment or something, say it.
Yeah.
You're not going to offend them. You're not going to. And if you do, then to get a different doctor.
Yeah.
So, all these things like really will kind of shape your journey on
Mm-hmm.
your health journey. But that's another thing I just wanted to bring up on
Yes,
that.
for sure. I agree 100%. Myself and my parents were all kind of medical geeks. Like none of us practice in that area, but we just, do research. We look up
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
We always go into the doctor with already like, I think it's this. Here's the symptoms. Here's why it lines up. This is what I think the treatment is. And most of the time, you save them a lot of time. They're like, okay,
Yeah.
but I have also had doctors give me ridiculous advice. I've gone in and I know the truth. I've done the research and I just say, thank you. Have a nice day. I walk out. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, like telling me to take antacids. I don't have heartburn because I have a lack of, antacids in my system. There's something causing that. I need to get to the root of it, right? So asking those right questions. I never took any of the medication. I changed my diet and I was healed, right? So you have to do a little bit of that research and don't let the doctors intimidate you for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
true.
And my journey led me to a group in San Diego. If you look at Precision Healthcare System in San
Hmm.
Diego, and everybody, all the members of that group it's called Project Apollo, have been diagnosed with something like me. Some of them have undiagnosed conditions where doctors can't even diagnose them. They don't even know what's wrong, but they've had several all the diagnoses in this group have had where they had to do self-study and they had to self-advocate on their complex conditions. So that resource is a good one too for, what we want to do is share our diagnoses and what we did with other people that can help them. So, so it kind of, my journey led me to this group, which is great because I love to advocate and help others. And I'm going to be creating some guidelines on how one can self-advocate for themselves.
Do you
So
have to be in California to be a part of that group or can anyone join
no,
it?
no,
Okay.
I don't believe so. So you can reach out to them. But there's resources on there too. And they take a different approach to, your, what your diagnosis is. It's really a holistic approach of let's look at everything versus let's just look at these symptoms. And, doctors really just don't take enough time. They don't have enough time to really get to know the patient and really take a bigger look at the picture of what might be going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see your TEDx talk. When is it coming out and how can we find it when it does?
Yeah. So I just did my TEDx talk 3 weeks ago. And so after you do your TEDx talk, it goes through post-production edits. So they take out any pauses or anything,
Hmm.
just to make it look nice and smooth and have a clean final product. And then it gets uploaded to a secure site for TED to review. So then TED, the brand, actually reviews and watches all of those TEDx talks. And then once that's done, it goes live, but they don't tell us. So once the event coordinator for my event that I did uploads it, they just check it every day and they see when it goes live. And then TED will actually create a YouTube link for it, under their brand, and that's when it goes live. So Once it goes live, I'll be sharing it on my social media and at my website, www.rachellebabler.com. I have a media tab and it'll be posted in there once it goes live.
Yay. And the
Yeah.
topic is about advocating through music, correct?
Yeah. So the
Okay.
topic I did was advocating through music. So it's really taking your story, putting it into a song, and then creating messaging around that for a cause. Like,
I love
what
it.
cause do you want to, share with others, with the world, to help, others take action, think differently about something, unite, especially during these times right now. It's very divisive and kind of chaotic. And, what can we do to share each other's stories so that we can bring us together a little bit more?
Beautiful. And that's how you pivoted with your business now, right? You're helping anyone who's interested in trying to get on the TEDx stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You have a coaching service.
Yeah. So my team and I, we help clients with getting clear on their idea, because the TEDx stage is really not for, it is for your stories, but it's what's the idea. That's their tagline. Their slogan is idea we're spreading. So what idea do you have that you can share to get others to take action, to
Mm.
think differently about something, to feel differently about something? What is it? So my idea was, advocating in a different way, advocating through music. So yeah, what's your idea? And then through music, it's again really just sharing your story in a customized song, and then wrapping messaging around that to share a cause that's very near and passionate to you.
Amazing. I love it. I
Mhm.
love it so much. And yeah, I'm sure I can't wait to watch it. I'm sure it is amazing. And so if anybody is looking for, if anyone has an idea and you're looking for a way to get it out there, be sure to contact Rachelle. I'll put your links in the show notes
Okay.
for sure. And you can find her on Facebook. I'll put that link as well. But she did a video, a live recently, where she talked about the whole experience behind the scenes, which was
Yeah.
really interesting. Very inspiring. I don't know if I'm ready yet, but it's definitely not off my list. So I'll definitely be thinking about that. I need an
Yeah.
idea first.
The TEDx stage is amazing. And just so your viewers know, there's a lot of, I think, fallacies about the TEDx. Like, you have to be a speaker and you
Mhm.
have to have a big idea, and and you don't. You could have a very simple how to, and that could be your idea.
Yeah.
Or you don't have to be. Some of the clients we had in the past have never spoken before ever on a stage. The TEDx stage was the first stage, and they did
Wow.
phenomenal because they were excited to share something, and they were coachable, and that's where they wanted to take their message. And it's a global stage. It can change somebody's life overnight, if your video
Mhm.
goes viral, and you can help others in a very big way. So it's a really fun thing to do. I love supporting. I'm not affiliated with TED, but I love supporting their mission and their cause.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I have loved chatting with you, and it would be so wonderful if you would close us out by playing your sister's song. Would you please
Yeah,
play it for us?
I would love to. Let me grab
Great.
my. So this song is called "Fueled by Faith," and my sister, um, she was she had a very strong faith in God, and she just trusted the whole process in her journey. And so I took a lot of her words from social media posts and stuff, and I put it into this song. So this is my interpretation of her cancer journey. I'm gonna take my glasses off. When you get dealt the hand you didn't know, you gear up for the fight, don't let it show. It ain't gonna bring me down, gonna lock it up and shut it down. No time, let's get this treatment on the road. I'm gonna knock it down and I won't let it show. It won't get the best of me. I'll fight the fight until I'm free. Fueled by faith, God control. Unwavered fight, it's in my soul. My road is turned and now I see. My job is done, don't cry for me. Here I am a few years down the road. I keep taking hits, but I won't let it show. Some doubts creeping in me now. I give it to God and settle down. When you get news that things could really end, I still smile for all my family and friends. I know that they'll be okay. I've made my mark, I'm on my way. Fueled by faith, God's in control. Unwavered fight, it's in my soul. My road is turned and now I see. My job is done, don't cry for me. Fueled by faith, God's in control. Unwavered fight, it's in my soul. My road is turned and now I see. My job is done, don't cry for me. No, don't cry.
Yay, so beautiful. Oh my gosh, I'm going to start crying. I love it. I love it. What a beautiful tribute to your sister, and what an important and impactful mission and passion that you have. And I'm just so honored to be able to chat with you today. Thank you so much for being my guest. And we will put all the links for how people can help get this message out there and get in contact with you to learn more. And until next time, my friends, remember to keep your light shining bright.